Hello, I'm Kieran Devlin, CX editor of CXM, and I'm delighted to be joined on today's show by Scott Draeger, SVP of Vertical Marketing at Smart Communications. Today we are discussing some compelling but alarming research that customer satisfaction with brand communications is falling sharply. I have asked Scott on to tackle what exactly the data is telling us and what CX leaders can learn to address this concern. Scott, thanks for joining us.
Nice to meet you. And this is a topic that's jumped off the page and into our lives on a daily basis, both at work and after work as consumers.
Before we dive into the topic at hand, though, Scott, can you please tell us a little about yourself and your smart journey?
I've been in customer communications, customer engagement for almost 30 years. I'm a certified customer experience professional, got a digital graphic design certificate on the side a number of years ago. So I think I bring a pretty balanced perspective to what can work effectively for customer communications, what doesn't work effectively, and how to bring that to life. I've been in smart communications for just about 3 years and in the industry for nearly 30.
Well, you're well positioned to tackle the breadth of today's conversation because I think the data does show quite a striking contradiction. Communications naturally matters more than ever to how customers feel about brands, yet satisfaction with those communications, as your data outlines, has fallen fairly dramatically. What do you think explains that gap? Are customer expectations rising faster than brands can keep up, or are organizations actually getting worse at the basics of communication?
I don't think the organizations are getting worse at the basics of communication. What I think is customer expectations are going up at a pretty rapid rate, but the barrier is inside the organizations where technical debt just stops innovation. There's a lot of things that just can't be done. Oh, we can't connect these two different systems, or our email system is disconnected and different from our SMS message system, which is disconnected from our outsourced print strategy, which is disconnected from our internal site that manages our portal. So, with all of those constraints combined, they can only move as fast as their slowest technical barrier while remaining consistent, or they can move as fast as their fastest channel but not be consistent. So they have to make a choice, and it's always better to choose consistency. And I think that's what's held people back. The tech stack is woefully outdated. We see people running sometimes 25, even 30-year-old software, and it's not great for the customers.
Oh, absolutely. And I think this, you've done the segue job for me because this report, as you say, argues that this is really a systems problem, masquerading as a customer satisfaction problem. You've got the broken forms, repeated data requests, disconnected channels, as you outline, unclear communications. If you had to isolate the single biggest failure behind that deterioration in customer experience, what would you say it is? Poor content, fragmented data and workflows, or organizations digitizing bad processes rather than redesigning them?
There's a little bit of each of those is true, but what I'd like to key on here is when there's a process that requires customer engagement. Specifically, the benchmark survey targeted a lot of questions about data collection. When data collection goes well, you ask for something once. When you ask for the same data twice, and the benchmark report confirmed this consistently across generational spectrums, when somebody has to enter data twice or they're asked the same question twice, it tells them in 2026 in 2026 context, it tells them you don't have data under control. It tells them, oh, you asked me for something twice, that means you're going to put it in two places, or you don't remember it, which means maybe I might, as a customer, feel like this is a place that could get breached or hacked, or they aren't taking care of my data. They're not responsible stewards of data. So maybe I would like to consider a different vendor. Maybe it's not for convenience sake specifically, but it says a lot about your security and your hygiene for how you treat customer data, especially when every day there's some sort of breach message in the news.
And I think this ties in nextly to the AI of it all. One of the most interesting findings is that confidence in AI is slipping at the same time for demand for transparency and human oversight is rising, and naturally that files nicely into what you're talking about. This worry about stuff slipping through. Does this finding suggest that the industry has oversold AI in customer comms, treating it as a shortcut to efficiency rather than providing tangible value to customers in high stakes moments?
I think there's a few different aspects to this one. The general uncertainty dropped. Like sometimes it dropped as much as 10% from last year. In the trust in AI, there's a couple of questions we asked. We asked specifically if you trust companies to responsibly use AI or to get you better outcomes using AI. That went down a little bit. A little bit of the ethics and the trust kind of came down, but that's 12 months of the news highlighting some of maybe the worst stories are the ones that get highlighted. There's never been a news story that said somebody saved 25 minutes with AI. That's not really headline worthy. But if somebody has a problem or there's a rogue bot that goes out in the news, and the general consumer base of the thousands of people we surveyed reflect that kind of tone. But when they're thinking about what they can get, they're viewing AI as an exchange. The brand promises approach to AI should be to help them get a better outcome. Can I do something faster? Can I have more options? Can I have a lower price? And also, are you letting me know? Like one of the questions that turned up a very important result was it was 86% of customers surveyed believe that you should, as an organization, disclose whether you're using AI in any of your processes that they're interacting with, because they believe that will affect how they value that process, how they go forward with it, how they trust it. But they do want to know.
No, 100%. I think that is exactly. I think that customers aren't naturally opposed to AI, but that transparency and specifically how it's used as well seems to be a real driving force behind a lot of these interactions currently. Your benchmark focuses naturally on regulated sectors like financial services, insurance, healthcare, and government, where communications often arrive at moments of stress, vulnerability, or consequence. In those environments, where do you think organisations most misunderstand the role of comms? Do they still treat it as back office compliance and artifacts when they're actually trust defining moments in the customer relationship?
There comes 85% of customers think communications are an important part of the customer relationship. But when you look inside out between your organization, anybody, banks, finance, government, healthcare, if you start thinking about how you engage with customers, you're very departmentally siloed. The budgets for the systems, the budgets for postage and delivery, the budgets and timelines and priority for IT allocation of resources. Those are all things that go into thinking at a project level. This is one project for onboarding new customers. That's a sales and marketing budget potentially. Then you have regular customer relationship maintenance. That's maybe your statements, your invoices. Those are usually operational budgets. So who's going to get the budget squeeze? It's going to be the operational one. Somebody's going to say, well, the customer is going to have to pay their invoice, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time making the invoice look nice or sound clean or have plain language. They have to pay it, so I'm going to ignore that one a little bit. But you know what? At renewal times, maybe that goes back to sales and marketing, so I might spend a little bit more time and attention on fixing a renewal. So as you think about this as a project perspective, those are all rational choices. But at the consumer end, they saw that you just switched tones at different times. They don't know or care about the differences between your department structures. They don't. It's not their problem. It's not their responsibility. It's your responsibility to serve them. And if they see your tone going excited, 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 dip down when it's time to collect money, and then be nice when it's time to ask for more, they take that and they understand that as your brand tone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's just that accumulation of different interactions in a sense. It's what you're not just sending in that SMS or on the phone. It is just this idea that you're communicating everything all the time in your brand imaging. One final question before I let you go, Scott. If you were advising a CX or operations leader in a regulated industry today, what would you tell them to fix first over the next 12 months? The quality and clarity of the communications themselves, the underlying data and form journey, or the governance model around AI? And finally, what's the cost of getting that prioritization wrong?
That's a great question. I'd like to focus on governance as the first area. Governance is important because regulations and regulators are often treated as a scapegoat. Oh, I can't do that I can't do that new design change because of the regulations. Or, oh, I can't do this because a regulator might not approve it. That's a mindset that justifies some of the past behavior and keeps customer experiences, customer engagements, and customer communications looking like they looked 10 or 15 years ago. Regulators are not afraid of color, they're not afraid of images, and they're definitely not afraid of well-designed experiences. In fact, they like them when they're a consumer themselves. So anytime I hear people saying, I can't do this because of governance, governance is usually about the minimum standards that you're required to meet, not the maximum standards that you can deliver to your client. Once you get that governance piece sorted and stop using it as a scapegoat, you can focus on some of the technical limitations that are in your tech stack, and you can start making well-designed communications. Because ugly design is a choice. You might be making it from a silo perspective, you might be making it from a convenience perspective, you might be blaming regulators, but it is a choice that many organizations actively make. And if you put all your communications on a wall, you can probably tell which ones are ugly and which ones aren't. It's your job as you serve your customers to figure out how to get those ones that are ugly or out of place, or you don't want to reflect your brand experience. Let's get those upskilled and reshaped to meet modern expectations.
Oh, absolutely. I think that is a really encouraging note on which to end today's video. But that is it for today's session. So a massive thank you to Scott for being here today.
Thanks, Kieran.
And if you enjoyed this video and would like more key insights and entertainment from CXM, please like, share and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.